Looking to break into Minnesota's legal cannabis industry? The next licensing round opens February 18th, and you don't have to navigate it alone. Jen Rice and her team can guide you through every step of the process at North Star Cannabis Consulting. Start with their free industry newsletter. Then let them help with license applications and business strategy to empower your success in this growing market. Don't miss your opportunity. Get professional guidance from a team that knows Minnesota's cannabis landscape inside and out. Contact North Star Cannabis Consulting today. Visit northstarcannabisconsulting.com to learn more. Keeping track of your grow doesn't have to be a hassle. Meet Plant Track. That's PLNTRK, a tool built by Minnesota growers for growers like you. Track every stage of your plant with intuitive progress bars for each phase. Stay on top of your grow with text reminders for watering, feeding, and photos. And when it's time to log data, it couldn't be easier. Just scan a QR code or tap an NFC tag to instantly access your plant's details and updates. You can even log your interactions for one or all your plants in just seconds. Ask detailed questions with the AI chat powered by your plant's data and get the help that you need when you need it. It's free for up to 8 plants. Go to www.plntrk.com now and start tracking your grow.
I want, like, in the future though, I want like coming out music. I want to be ripping like Future before we like hit the record button, and then we just drop in
HOTTOGO.
Stop. Before we get sued, stop. Disney, it wasn't me.
Is that Chapel Roan?
It is, yeah.
Wow.
I only know it because of the Minnesota Frost.
Oh yeah.
One of the songs they play at every single.
Are they still playing?
They are, yeah. We've got a couple more games until it is the playoffs. Top 4 teams make it to the playoffs, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping. Fingers crossed.
Where are we in those standings?
We are 4.
Hey.
And we have the least number of games left out of all of them.
So very little wiggle room.
Yeah, yeah. So if we were going to make mistakes, now is not the time.
Nope.
But we're Minnesotans, so this is sort of when we
are
drop the
Minnesota. We are Fox 9.
45.
Yeah. Hello.
We need to stop doing Tanner's Terp tastings before the important bits.
No, I think it leads to better content.
True.
Yeah.
Here we go. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by Steven and Jordan. Hey there, guys.
Hey Tanner, good to see you.
Happy to be back.
Anytime you say Stephen Jordan, I think of Steve Jordan, the drummer. Very famous drummer. Okay, sorry. I don't know why I took us off on a tangent right away.
No,
but
I
every single time for
for it.
24 times.
Yeah.
Anytime you say that, I just lock into my pocket.
What if my name was Michael, and then he was like, yeah, and I'm here with Michael Jordan. Episode 24. It's our Kobe episode. We're here at the Dabbler Depot studio. Doobie Dabbler coming soon.
Oh yeah. Guys, it's a busy episode today. We've got a lot of news. It was a busy week last week, so we've got a lot that we're covering.
I've never fucking felt more busy in my life.
Dude, for reals. And it's classic OCM. Man, just fumbling the ball, but in such a great way. So
yeah, how was your Friday night?
My Friday night, thankfully,
Okay.
by 6 p.m., I was home and
Wow.
wasn't thinking about the application process anymore.
Amazing.
But as we'll hear during the news part, a lot of people were up till like 11:59 trying
Sure.
to get that application submitted. Also, maybe some people were up until 11:59 like the next day. Yeah, it was a busy weekend. Thankfully, my weekend was not that.
Any software updates on your end?
No, thankfully not. No, if I was to set a software update, I probably wouldn't choose the busiest day that the entire website was going to be used. But whatever, it's not a big deal. And we're here. How was your weekend?
Yeah. No idea.
Sweet.
But yeah, week was busy. Looking at all sorts of options as we get one step closer to the Minnesota adult use cannabis.
Oh yeah. I know. It's exciting that we're coming up to the end of May. This will be the last episode that's coming out in the month of March. And May, June, just around the corner.
April, May, June is going to be hot.
It's real close. And so we're getting to that period where OCM was saying the people who are going to receive approvals, who got through that social equity round, they're probably going to be receiving emails, if they haven't yet already by the time this episode comes out, letting them know what some of those next steps are. And those are next steps towards opening doors to a business. We're getting close to the...
Yeah.
I feel like it's that gif of the truck almost hitting the pole, and then it keeps changing angle, and it's like, oh, we're almost there. But, guys, we are so freaking close to that pole.
Yeah. Where are we? It's March. It's like the first day of spring. We're coming to you on Tuesdays, so this episode's dropping late March.
Yeah.
Congrats to everybody who got their license applications in.
Yeah. It is no small feat getting that submitted, especially when the website goes down multiple times, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But to every person who took the advice of getting it in early or who stayed up late to get it turned in, congrats. It is a monumental step. It's getting something turned in. It's not like that's the end, but it is a beginning of whatever this exciting next chapter is.
How much did the second version feel like the first version by the time you got through it?
Yeah, that's such a really good question. I feel like I went and I fought against like this giant like animal, dog, whatever, and I came out like super scarred and bloodied, and then I'm like, here we fucking go again. I know that the application that I submitted was to the best of my teams, the people that worked on it ability, and I want to clarify my employer, not my application. But I still 50-50 whether OCM is going to point at that and go, oh yeah, you guys made this technical error here. And I was hoping that by the time we got to the end of this application period closing, we'd feel much more optimistic about that next chapter. And maybe May, June. Yeah, May, June. But guys, before we get to the news, should we play a little bit of a game?
Yeah.
All right, this is one of those games that will probably get us canceled, so let's jump right into it. Do you guys know what season it is?
March Madness.
No, we already did that season. Is that still going on?
It already started. Is it Mardi Gras?
No. Well, I mean, that would be a good one, too.
Yeah.
No, today we're celebrating... Well, I guess...
Is this the game? We're not very good at this game.
That would be a funny... imagine we got to the end and it's like, well, that's the game, guys.
Thanks.
No.
And actually, Tanner's up 1 point already.
God.
I said no to Mardi Gras, but it is technically related. It is the season of Lent. Now, guys, I got to be honest.
Nice.
I was raised Jewish. I don't really know what this means. But when I was sitting with my wife the other night and saying, oh, fuck, it's 11:59, we need a game. Come on. We were like, it's a season of Lent, and I had some Lent-themed weed questions for you guys that I just wanted to ask. So today we're going to be playing Higher Sacrifice with Lent.
Oh, no.
So, guys,
can you take me higher?
You're going to be hit with two different cannabis-adjacent choices, things that maybe are attitudes or things that you do, habits, whatever, and you got to decide which ones you're going to sacrifice for lit Lent, and choose carefully because your stash's spiritual health is on the line.
So do we like start with an ounce? And
So I'm gonna. No, this is all just. What's the phrase? The points are made up.
Whose line is it anyway?
Yeah. So there's no points to today's game. The winner is the one who has the most fun. So let's jump in and play.
Or the least shame.
Yeah, lit Lent.
Lit Lent.
I feel like if you walk away from Lent with no shame, you're doing pretty good. I don't know. All right, here we go. Let's walk in.
Yeah.
So guys, would you rather give up getting high before cleaning? So like you got to go and clean totally stone cold sober. Or would you rather give up getting high after cleaning for lit Lent? So you got to clean either way. Are you going to get high beforehand and then just be sober for the rest of your day? Or are you going to, grin and bear it, get through the cleaning, and then have a celebratory J to celebrate your new clean space?
That's great.
Which one are you going to give up for lit Lent, which, a reminder, lasts 40 days?
And remember, like you're supposed to give up something that's difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which of those would be more of an impact on your life?
Before, for sure.
All right.
Because
That's
The
the
li- that's the
impetus
little-
of how the cleaning starts.
It's like when you see videos of like a bunch of teenagers opening up like a bay of water. They just dig a trench that leads to the ocean, and the current like progressively gets crazy strong.
You're watching teenagers on YouTube. Is that what you're talking about?
There's
Or
like surf. It's like sand.
What,
There-
who
it's
are,
like-
are you from Grand Rapids? What's going on?
Anyway, it's what I need to get the little trickle of motivation.
Yeah.
Just push you a little bit over.
Because
Yeah,
then
no, you're
after
right.
that, it becomes a big river of productivity.
Oh. See, I agree. I just didn't think about it like that.
You weren't riding that Minnesota-made surfboard through the cleaning wave.
Surfboard. I'm thinking like it's really hard for me to like. Remember we used to do Saturday morning like live streams.
For sure.
Like that's kind of like when I like to clean the most,
Mm-hmm.
and it's preferred to with a dryer vaporizer,
Yeah,
and then we get going.
absolutely.
So for Lent, I'm gonna give up that one.
Yeah. I think I also would give up getting high before because that would be a much bigger impediment to my life because I don't know how I would clean them.
But if we could both like clean our respective apartments and then meet up and then get high after, that would be fun.
That'd be cool too.
Doesn't happen. But like, what if like we all cleaned this weekend and then like you guys came over and we smoked the volcano?
I think we should throw a party sometime, and you don't got to pay to come. You just got to have a picture of your room that shows that it's clean. If your mom says you can come to this party, you're in.
Okay, I think we should actually do this for the end of the year party.
Check us out. We'll be there.
And so you have to, you either have to register on Eventbrite or you have to take a picture of your clean room, and that's the only way you get into the end of the year Northern Lights party.
Incredible. And we will be reverse image searching all of those. So don't just download it off of Google. We know. All right, guys, here's your next one. Would you rather give up getting high before going grocery shopping? So you got to be totally sober and go grocery shopping and just like be straight about that. Or would you prefer to get high before doing some snacking and eating?
That's funny.
See, I don't need weed to enjoy snacks and eating.
Oh,
need
goddamn,
weed
you're right.
To enjoy being out in public.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever spent way too much time at the grocery store because you forget where things are, and it's kind of embarrassing because you go to the grocery store every week, but this time you're just a little too high?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
That's not my issue. It's more of just like I know where everything is,
Oh,
and
yeah?
then I just walk slowly in the zigzag that I know I need to do, and it's more just leaning on the cart, doing more of the like observational inside.
You're having fun.
Observational humor. I'm like just giving people backstories and
hanging out at
creating
the meat counter.
the rich tapestry of life around me. Yes.
Wow.
You know, they have the mic'd up for like hockey players.
Mhm.
I want a mic'd up Jordan goes shopping.
Yeah.
And it's just like a video GoPro mounted on the cart. You just like walking around.
Anything I would just be thinking, I just say
Mic'd out
quietly
loud.
into the mic, and
And then we watch it back on the Northern Lights podcast.
Yeah.
the director's commentary version of
It'd
it.
be so good. So what are we giving up? Go before grocery shopping? You said?
Grocery shopping, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be much more difficult for me.
I hear you. Like the grocery shopping one is relatable, but like lately, are you snacking and dabbing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Oh yeah.
snacking pretty hard, like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Mhm.
These last few nights, just trying to keep like, if I keep my,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll stay up longer.
Yep.
This episode is brought to you by Twizzlers.
Oh, there we go. Mine is dehydrated banana chips. I have a little dehydrator sits on the table.
Oh,
I've been dehydrating slices of bananas. It takes way too long.
it does.
14 hours at
Wow.
135. But then at the end, you got these little chips that take me forever to eat.
Wow. Are you pairing it at all with banana terpenes?
No, that'd be so good.
Mm.
If I had like some chocolate dip banana dabs with some chocolate dip banana
Holy cow.
flavor, actual chocolate dip banana, that'd be pretty good.
Wasn't that one of the last episodes of Tanner's Terp Tasting?
Yeah, it was fine.
Okay.
All right. No, it was a good episode.
No,
but-
was that with Will Johnston from...
No, unfortunately, Will was the one before that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was when we had Will on, and I still feel like we should have talked more about Yu-Gi-Oh! Than
Yeah.
we did, but man, the people that called in sure disagreed with that.
Yeah, I mean, if Will wants to come back on the show, I mean, by all means, like,
Mhm.
let's Let's get some more Yu-Gi-Oh.
But you got to bring your Exodia. Otherwise,
Yeah.
All right. So we'd give up getting high before grocery shopping, eating. Put it all?
Yeah. I mean, I should give up doing that at the grocery store because it's just not a good idea.
Yeah, that's fair. It's not for Lent. It's just smart.
Yeah.
All right. Would you guys rather give up edibles that hit right away? Like you take the edible and it's like, wow, this is perfect. Or edibles that last the perfect amount of time. So you're either going to have edibles that like, they sort of take way too long for them to hit you. Or you eat them and you're like, cool, I'm ready to be sober now. And you're like, you're still sort of high. Which one? Which negative thing do you want to happen for Lent? Or positive thing do you want to give up? I was Jewish. I don't know. I don't understand how this works.
I was raised Christian, and this doesn't even make sense to me.
Okay, cool.
So,
Cool, Tanner. Yeah. We'll do the first one.
Yeah. All right. We'll give up the edibles that hit right away. All right.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys,
should we give up dabs for Lent, just in general?
I think we should give up games. I feel like we had some really good ones for a minute, and man, we've been struggling to come up with some good ones. But thank you guys for bearing with us.
I think if I could make a recommendation, I think we just you gather some ideas from us on what categories we can bring to word salad strain name.
Okay, all right.
And then let's just build on word salad strain name because it's so good.
Oh, but the last time we played it was so bad. All right.
I'll throw in a game idea every so often.
All right.
Yeah, we need. Come on, let's come together.
Some camaraderie.
Viewers at home, listeners, all of that jazz. Write in with your game ideas. We are going to do hot takes and hot dabs, but we need the right episode for that, and we might be coming up to that soon for those looking at the calendar. But that being said, send in your game ideas because we want some more.
I've been using ChatGPT to help make me grocery lists.
Oh yeah,
and it's like, oh god, like why am I just using ChatGPT for business? I need to be using this for my life.
I would be worried about what games they would come up with. I feel like not good ones. I tried it at one point and I came up with some really bad ones.
No, it's not like, no, I appreciate you because you are original.
One of a kind.
Even if it's not great. All right, guys, time for the ultimate sacrifice, the end question. Would you rather give up weed completely for 40 days or give up your favorite way to consume cannabis forever?
Whoa.
That is such a good question. Like, it's not a bad... He has great questions.
Yeah.
I just don't know if they're games.
It's just not a game. It's just an interview.
It's more of, thought-provoking little exercise.
We're going to play a new game called Thought Experiment. We ask each other questions, and you guys hear us talk about it.
Hey, guys, I have an idea for a game. I call it Conversation. Tanner will ask questions, and then we'll answer them.
Okay, so giving up weed for Lent for 40 days.
Yeah. Or saying the favorite way that I consume cannabis, dabbing, edibles, smoking, vaporizing, whatever be it, I'm now giving up forever.
That would suck.
I would personally give up smoking weed for 40 days.
I would 40
just say,
days.
I'm going to take the
40
tea
days,
break,
Mm-hmm.
coming back to dabbing hard instead of saying, I just got to smoke weed the rest of my life. Garbage.
But if you did give up weed for 40 days and 40 nights, like,
Yeah.
it'd be nice if you didn't have to do a podcast about weed every week.
It would be really nice if I was on a weed tolerance break. If I wasn't on a podcast dedicated to sampling weed. Shout out Marcus Harkis. In fact, we're going to have a great conversation with our buddy Marcus a little bit later, so stick around for that one. Well, for those that are still with us, we got a lot of news to cover. Let's put the games aside, jump to the news.
Sounds good.
Now, guys, I'm sure this first piece of news is not going to be of surprise to any person, which is that the application window for the first round of general applicants for cannabis business applications in Minnesota has now come to a close. Officially. Hooray! Yay, yay, yay. As we were talking about at the beginning, that has now officially come to an end, but holy shit, were there some bumps along the way. Should we talk about them?
February 18th to March 14th.
Yep.
It was a busy time.
Yeah, so you had a decent amount of time to get your application turned in. I want to start by saying we advised people, the episode that came out 4 days before the window closed, we recorded a full week before the window was set to close, telling people, don't wait until the last minute. The website will crash. Go back, play the episode. Jordan, clip it right here. Put that in where I said it's going to crash. I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that. But go back and watch that episode because as we discussed, OCM fumbles sometimes, as government does sometimes. And as we saw, that ball was dropped hard. So 9 p.m., you go on the website. It's Friday night. You're like, man, I got 2.5 hours left. I'm good.
Yeah.
Website is down. It had crashed entirely by 9 p.m. According to the officials with Acela, which is the company that they were with, it basically just required some additional maintenance.
Right.
And it was down until 4 a.m. on Saturday morning.
It seems unavoidable. I mean, it seems avoidable for the system maintenance, but I can understand the volume being unpredictable.
Absolutely. And let's be real. Shout out to the cannabis community. We love you guys. We don't mean any hate by this, but probably too many people waited until 11 p.m. to be turning in an application for a business license. Like, all that set aside, though, we saw the website go down. And, you know, OCM, it would have been great if they said, oh, well, we'll just extend it through to the end of Saturday. We'll give it a full day extension. You're all set to go. And that's initially what they did announce.
Okay.
But then the company that helps host the website came out and said, oh, actually, we scheduled maintenance from 9 to 11 p.m.
Yeah.
The day after the application was supposed to close because, you know, it's closed.
So first it crashed
Yep.
on Friday.
Yep.
Then the maintenance was scheduled on Saturday.
Yep.
Which makes sense. You would schedule
Totally.
maintenance after a busy period.
Can't blame them.
Right?
Because they weren't expecting that the website would crash and that OCM would then extend the deadline past into the window when they had already scheduled to be doing this maintenance. So OCM looked at this and went, shit, I guess we're going to extend it again. And it was extended until noon on Sunday.
Sunday.
Oh, yeah. A full, 36 hours past the initial deadline. You could have been turning in your application because OCM's website just couldn't stay up, couldn't stay open.
Yeah. Yeah. I have so many thoughts like expect the unexpected.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. If you were a business owner who waited until 11 p.m. the night that your application is due, why? Write into the show. We'd love to hear from you. Because
No, actually leave a really long Facebook post.
yeah, please do that instead on your personal and business account page and all that. And yeah, no, it was really a showing of the professionalism of the industry at times.
Right.
And the not at other times. I saw a comment of someone who posted on Reddit, which shout out Trees.
What a great place.
Yeah. Who posted on Sunday, we are petitioning OCM to extend their deadline. Like, why, dude? If you don't have your application ready by Sunday morning, which is a full 2 days after the deadline was supposed to be,
Yeah.
maybe this wasn't for you, dog.
You know, it is a little bit of a, you know, because cannabis consumption may help you think differently.
Yeah.
So it does contribute to different ways of thought.
Yeah, there's a old school Simpsons episode where Fish plays at a rally to try to get people to vote, you know, reform the marijuana law. And they're like, go vote in the election. And then someone goes, the election was yesterday, guys. And they're like, oh, shit. And this felt sort of like, come on, guys, we're better than that. But alas, here we are. And we have people still that are working on those applications, I imagine.
And, you know, now the application window has closed.
Yep.
Are there any open application opportunities right now?
No. So there will be again at some point. We expect in about 18 months, they'll probably open that window back up.
Yeah.
But for right now, this is sort of the pool of who we have for the first year and a half of what our industry looks like.
Wow. And how many applicants were reported?
Yeah. So we had a really fun mix. We had about 2,000 additional applicants come in during this general application round.
Okay.
So we had a large chunk that came in during social equity. I think people were looking at that and saying, wow, we're going to have 5, 10, 15 times as many applicants. Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, I think most of the people that were looking to really try to gamify that system probably did it during the social equity round anyways. And so what we had here was a lot of people applying for micro business licenses and then a few people applying for other capped licenses.
Okay.
we expect that lottery to happen in that wonderful month of May, June that
June.
OCM keeps telling us about.
You know what I heard? I heard that the legislative session might go long this year.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we might need to add another month to this May, June.
Yeah. The legislature, which we will be talking about a little bit later, has been really interesting recently. Not just around cannabis, but generally. And if you're getting messages from someone who claims to be a state senator, like maybe don't chat them online. Yeah. But
unless they want to come on the show.
Yeah. So May, June is when we expect those applications to get reviewed, those capped lotteries to really happen. But for people that are applying in the uncapped categories, especially the social equity applicants that already were approved during that pre-approval round, they'll probably get an email in the next couple of weeks, if not already.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is pretty exciting.
First phase of general adult use.
Yep.
Without excluding social equity.
Exactly. Yep. So we had some social equity applicants that have been showing that they've gotten emails from OCM telling them they can move on to the next steps. We don't know exactly how many of those emails have gone out to who exactly, but based upon what we're hearing through the grapevine, shout out Bridget at Ground & Gardens.
Yeah.
People are probably getting their emails as we speak, letting them know, hey, you're good to go. Because just to remind people again, that first round, pre-approval, they had to wait for all of the applications to be reviewed before they could let people know on decisions. This, as soon as one of those uncapped applications is approved, they're good to keep moving forward. So we could have people within the next couple of days, weeks, however long, be getting those emails. Hopefully very soon. I'm excited for stores to open. I am curious where all the product is going to come from, but that's why we're going to get those licenses out, get that starting to grow, and get those doors opened. When do you guys? We've tried to draw that line in the sand of like 4th of July is when we hope to have that. Let's sort of revisit that. Do we still think it's now the end of March? Applications have closed. Do we think we're going to have dispensaries by July? And let's throw the big asterisk on here of not tribal-owned dispensaries.
We had somebody from the OCM on last week to talk about their experience in the cannabis industry. And, having followed up with Jess just today on the social medias, the OCM is looking at how they serve all three interests from a general applicant standpoint, including social equity, from a medical cannabis perspective, from a tribal cannabis perspective. And if we think about the word dispensary and how it's changed names and how it's changed meaning over the last, however long we've known each other.
Absolutely.
The problem is what is going to be sold in July or August or September.
Yeah.
And we need to, it's hard. We need to leave room for hemp, but we need to leave room for hemp businesses to also be unique and not just to be gobbled up by adult use dispensaries, because then you take away the opportunity for the hemp shops to really have clientele and be able to offer unique products. So that's really what I'm worried about, is like where they draw the lines and what products can be sold. And Minnesota is just so unique. We have to remember we're in this interesting market where hemp-derived edibles have become the norm. And if we bump up caps on hemp-derived edibles, and we saw that right away when medical companies started to adopt the ability to sell CBD products. For sure. So truth be told, my viewpoint is they'll open as soon as they can, but the product won't be that differentiated.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think it's a really fair assessment. Jordan, are you looking forward to a 4th of July weed pickup, or think maybe you'll be smoking from the usual guy?
I think historically I've said after. I'm going to stick on that one.
That's fair.
And my answer is much shorter.
There we go.
After.
I think we'll have, probably by end of August, but who knows?
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Can't wait for August.
Yeah. Me neither. I'm excited to be able to no longer talk about business applications for cannabis licenses, at least with the big asterisk of, probably people will get notices of things they need to change, but hopefully this is the last big round, everyone watching the screen, website crashing, all that stuff. Because next time people are applying for licenses, the businesses will be open. Like it won't be a brand new thing. It will just be become a new normal. So hopefully we get closer to that sooner rather than later.
Not to be a pest, but I really hope they live stream the lottery.
Yeah. I think they will.
And then we should watch it at Dabbler Depot Seed and Sesh.
That could be pretty fun.
Or we just do our own Twitch stream of our stream of us streaming
Ooh, okay.
their stream.
That's why the OCM doesn't like us.
Yeah. What if we did like like Twitch plays Pokemon, where they get to choose the buttons by voting democratically? What if we had like Twitch chooses cannabis business licenses, and like the viewers on this stream get to go through and vote on? All right. Well, so that wasn't the only news that happened from this past week. We also had some other big stuff that happened, not out of the legislature, which we'll be talking about in a minute, not out of the executive branch and the applications, but out of our courts. Now, we don't often think about in our conversation in this podcast cannabis as a criminal justice issue, because a lot of our conversations have sort of shifted to focusing on the business side of it. But of course, it remains a criminal justice issue. Marcus's conversation he's going to be having shortly here highlights that very fact. But we saw that legal-ish remains ish this week. By having a follow-up on a case that we talked about actually like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, episode 12, way back in the day.
I kind of remember you talking about this.
Oh, yeah, audio only. Now, days after legalization happened, we had Todd Thompson, a 54-year-old White Earth Band of Chippewa member, arrested for selling, allegedly, cannabis and plants out of his tobacco store. He had concentrates, he had flour, and he was selling it, advertising it as adult use product, saying, it's legal today. What's going to happen?
Bold move.
Yeah, bold move, Cotton. And exactly what happened was the police came in and they seized 7.5 pounds of cannabis and just under a pound of cannabis concentrate. Don't worry, guys. It was all mids anyways, though, so it's all fine.
He argued the state lacks the jurisdiction to prosecute him.
He did. He said, because of the way that tribal law is interpreted in Minnesota, they can impose criminal actions for criminal activity, and they can impose civil fines for civil activity, but they're not allowed to impose criminal fines for civil behavior. Like if someone was going to get like a citation or something for something, it couldn't be the state coming in and enforcing it within tribal jurisdiction. And so what was argued here by Thompson is that because people can legally sell cannabis with a license, I can legally sell cannabis without a license because it's just a civil difference, not criminal. And this was the courts firmly saying, no, actually, this is criminal.
It's clearly criminal.
Yeah, it's pretty clearly criminal. So go back and listen to...
They seized 7.5 pounds.
Yep.
And just under a pound, which is about 16 ounces.
Yep.
Of concentrates.
And so we saw that motion filed, and earlier this week we saw that motion denied. So
there hasn't been a sentence at this point, has there?
No, not yet. No, as of right now, it continues to be sort of this churning of our judicial system of motions being filing, things focusing on the motion, then going back to the original, and then new motions. And so this is still that original charge from August 2nd of 2023 working its way through the system.
I spoke to friend of the show, Jordan from Red Lake Nation this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having just kind of dovetailing, not with the respect to this case. And, he explained that, because there are some dispensaries open on reservation land in Red Lake. And it's kind of a touchy subject where it's like they're not licensed through the nation yet. Yeah. But what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to get their paperwork through the nation. And that's how they'll allow other dispensaries to operate on reservation land that aren't owned by the tribe. And so this guy, talk about being early. He was trying to stake his claim,
Oh yes, he was. Absolutely.
And he went for it. But it doesn't sound like it's going to work out for him. It doesn't matter where you are in Minnesota. If you don't have a license, It won't work out long term.
Yeah, not a good idea. Now, here's another question. Do you think this guy will get sentenced before we have dispensaries openly selling flower? I don't know, because I think by August we're going to be having stores open.
Yeah.
Will this guy be sentenced by August? Maybe. We'll see.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. This is why people tune into Northern Lights, so you can follow along and have this whole timeline in your head.
We're the #1 Todd Thompson podcast in Minnesota.
And Todd, don't you start a new podcast, otherwise we're going to not be able to say that anymore. Today's episode is brought to you, we should say, by Todd Thompson.
Yeah, thank you so much, Todd.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. All right. Well, we do have one other news story that we want to talk about. We talked about the executive branch. We talked about the judicial branch. Let's jump into the legislative branch.
You're getting your shit off today,
I know.
man.
I love it. Now, we had a lot of activity in the past week in the legislature. Now, this technically happened right before our last recording. We didn't get a chance to talk about it in the last episode, so we're throwing it in here because it is, I think, really worthwhile talking about. Now, we've had a number of bills working their way through the legislature. A lot of them have been pretty minor changes. One of them would add the Office of Cannabis Management as an agency that is allowed to deal government to government with tribal governments. Because technically, as of right now, OCM has to work with the governor, who then works with the tribal government, who then works with the governor, who works with OCM. This would just sort of clean that up. It's all the same government with walls and OCM anyway, so this should just make it cleaner. And you'd think it'd be sort of an easy conversation, but alas, it had a pretty exciting hearing.
Right. It needs to be passed.
Yeah.
This change needs to be passed.
Yeah, it's pretty minor. There's a couple other technical changes, times where they maybe said like customer and it actually should say a totally different word, or just like, things that are similar but wrong. This was going to be something that was just missed and a minor update, but the Republicans who were on the conference committee use this as an opportunity to really talk about some of the bigger issues they're having with what OCM is doing.
Yeah.
Generally.
Mark Corin is the representative in this story.
Oh, yeah. Now, we had him introduce an amendment to this bill as it was making its way.
Senator.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Working its way through committee. And this would have done a couple things. First, it would have added the Speaker of the House to the negotiating team, which let's sort of do our math in our head right here. That is right now a Republican, I believe. Requires the state taxes be collected on off-reservation sales, which I believe as of right now, the draft version says it doesn't have to be. It would demand that compacts be posted publicly for public comment 30 days before signing, which they don't currently have to be. And it would prevent the governor from, quote, surrendering state regulatory sovereignty over off-reservation cannabis stores. So in essence, tribes wouldn't be able to regulate dispensaries that are off-reservation lands. It would have to be just OCM, which, as the compact looked like it right me written, might sort of give some of that to the tribal governments.
Yeah.
And this turned into a pretty big discussion.
Yeah.
Did it end up passing? No, but let's jump into the discussion itself.
All right.
Now, we've been seeing this compact language be continued to be adopted. You and Clem talked about it a little bit on last week's episode. We heard Clem talk about it in the Star Tribune in an article that he wrote about. And it's been getting a lot of news.
It's unique in how it's set up, where it would give the tribes quite a bit of independence within the cannabis industry.
Yeah. And we have the GOP pretty unhappy about that in Minnesota, at least in the legislature. So we're seeing amendments like this, and I imagine we'll see amendments like this introduced to other bills in the future, trying to change how that compact process is looking. Because I'll be the first to say it hasn't been a super open process.
Minnesota Cannabis College was not invited to any of those.
No, we weren't. And man, there are a lot of people that post on Instagram, oh, I just got out of this meeting. I've got a bunch of details I can tell you about the compact. You just got to pay me first, and I'll be your consultant. And I wish that we didn't have so many people trying to do that, because it was just a big open process and everyone knew what was happening. But instead, it's sort of been closed doors, and we don't exactly know. Walls said that he's not at all concerned about it, saying that this is just sort of how compacts are made. He said Minnesota does not stand apart in that we honor tribal sovereignty. These are sovereign nations. They have treaty rights. They have historic rights. We've decided to make that clear in how we sign our compacts. And, clear it is.
Okay.
Now, we've seen a couple other bills introduced into the session. We talked about a number last week. We're just going to fly through a couple more because we got to talk about them.
Hold on, though, because
Yeah.
I made a dig last week. So if Walls is saying these are our first Minnesotans and they're going to be up and running, he's alluding to them being up and running first,
I think so.
which is a little bit different than what Eric Taubel said when he said no one is getting a head start.
Yep.
So it sounds like left hand isn't talking to right hand, which is why this bill is being, the tunnel is being cleared so that the tribes and the OCM can have better communication, because right now it's all happening through the governor's office.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, we don't have Taubel in the room
he's not in the room
doing those negotiations.
so he doesn't know who's
necessarily.
getting a head start.
Yeah, we've got OCM representatives that are working with the Walls administration, and I wish that there was just more openness to what that was looking like.
Yeah.
I wish that we just had something that we could hang our hat on of, oh, this is a forward-moving progress. Instead, we have news articles that are posting saying, yeah, we're going to open a dispensary in like 2 weeks.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Remember that news article saying middle of March, this dispensary is opening?
St. Cloud
It's March 21st.
and Moorhead.
Not open yet.
Neither are open.
No comeback signed.
No compacts are signed. Now they're saying now the end of this month, which is by the time folks are hearing this pretty soon.
Okay, yeah. And news seems to drop on Friday afternoon, so.
Oh yeah, for all we know. But the issue is, as we covered with social equity applicants, and as you'll hear on the interview with Marcus, the issue is the social equity applicants were already supposed to be off and running.
Yeah.
And that's one part of that's the OCM side. And then, you can go to a handful of dispensaries right now that are all open on Tuesday. And so, look, it's never going to be perfect, but you'd like it to be more transparent. And that's kind of what that group is arguing for.
Yeah. This is it's been a weird year for me politically, where the two bills that we've talked about that I went, yeah, those actually sort of make sense to me. Both introduced by the GOP.
Right.
And people who have listened to the show for a while know this is no surprise. I'm not a huge fan of their general bills that get introduced, but maybe around cannabis.
Well, it
little bit more okay.
shows you this pendulum concept, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
natural in government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's talk about some other bills that were introduced by Democrats that I like, such as raising the amounts of loans that micro businesses can receive. As of right now, it's capped at $50,000. This would raise it to $75,000 and lower the requirement of public or private funds that you have to bring to that.
Okay.
So positive.
Is this cannabis micro business loans from like grants, or is it? Yeah, grants.
Yep.
Okay.
State of Minnesota grants. So positive. Then we got House File 2104, which would ban signs outside of dispensaries. I personally would like to have a sign outside a dispensary telling me what's there. And this isn't just banning like the ads that hang in the windows, which like I get, maybe people don't want that. This bans any sign that could be perceived as promoting the sale of cannabis.
Yeah.
Which to me is a fucking name of a store.
Yeah,
Like
like the Holiday Inn Express.
absolutely. I see that sign and it's sort of selling the idea of a hotel.
Of what you can get at
Yeah.
a Holiday Inn.
Imagine the doobie dabbler and someone coming up and being like, it says the word dab in the name, so we need you to take that down.
Or like every dispensary is a speakeasy.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you drive up past Elk River, you're on your way up north, and you're heading past Malacca Liquor,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a big digital billboard, and it rotates because it's 2025,
Mm-hmm.
and it has different, and a lot of it, the time it says THC sold here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd be really curious to know who's behind this bill, and if they're aware that THC beverages are being advertised on Highway 169.
Yeah. Some of my favorite cannabis advertisements that I see on billboards are for like Higher Love or some of those Michigan dispensaries, because they can ban billboards for Minnesota licensed dispensaries in Minnesota,
Oh no.
but they can't ban billboards for businesses that aren't in Minnesota.
Wow.
And so they have billboards, and they'll continue to be some of the only cannabis billboards around.
Do you get what he's talking about? Like,
Have you ever seen the billboard that says like Higher Love 123 miles that way?
Yeah.
So they don't have a Minnesota business license, so they can't be banned from having billboards for their business.
Yeah, there's no precedent for
that sounds like
Yeah.
the Wisconsin beverage makers who were importing THC and CBD beverages back before what's his name got his shit together and
Mhm.
figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the amount of people that I knew who were, I'm going to close down operations and move to Hudson.
I got a P.O. box in Hudson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
no.
So some other bills, Senate File 2173 would require more factual information dispensaries so you guys can know, you got to wait 8 hours after taking an edible before you drive a car. God forbid.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Facts
Or
only.
Facts only. We got the THC caps coming back hot. We talked about this one last week. We
Not
got it
too
now
hot.
rolling over to the Senate. No, not too hot. We got only 30% for concentrates, 10% for flower, and no infused pre-rolls. Goodbye, cool little hash rolls. And finally, we got Senate File 2371, which would allow the sale of medical companies to tribal medical cannabis patients. We also talked about this one last week, but now we've got that Senate version. Moving on over.
Good. Yeah, that's great. I'm hearing things, I think, generally positive.
Yeah.
I think the OCM is open to hearing all perspectives and, trying to leave room for all. I hope that they don't limit the spectrum of products, but I understand there's a lot at play here in the Minnesota market.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I'm just curious to see how the OCM regulation ends up shaking out. I think everyone is, we were watching that applications for so long. I'm still waiting for those rules to come out. We had public comments submitted. They're still looking over the comments.
Aren't they late on that?
They said it would come out by the end of March. So they've got, technically another week, but
Okay.
man, they are waiting until the deadline. And as we've said before, don't do that. Don't wait till the deadline. Get it in early. And so we would really love to be seeing those rules, especially if people are getting notices saying, hey, we'd love to come, schedule a tour of your business so we can finalize your application. But you don't even know what rules are going to regulate your business. And so
they don't know what to
luck.
expect when they're expecting.
Yeah. An inspection. I still love, we're some behind the scenes here. So we did that wonderful segment that was what to expect when you're expecting an inspection. Great class, great event. One of my favorite ads that we recorded. And then months later learned from you didn't know what to expect when you're expecting was a famous pregnancy book. You just thought Tanner was really committed to this bit of what to expect when you're inspecting an inspection. And you're like, all right, sure.
I do now.
Yeah, I'm sure you do now. Oh, yeah. But
We'll be right back.
we'll be right back.
70. Did you know that 70% of businesses fail in the first 10 years? And the number one reason they fail is because they run out of cash. Hi, I'm Dave Woodbeck. I'm the managing partner of Dope CFO. At Dope CFO, we help cannabis business owners beat the odds by providing financial leadership. Yes, we handle bookkeeping, accounting, and taxes, just like any accountant. But as one CEO recently told me, the last thing I need is another accountant. I need a partner who can help me achieve financial success. So take the first step towards financial success. Scan the QR code now to start your free self-assessment.
Attention Northern Lights listeners. Whether you're growing cannabis indoors or outdoors, organically or hydroponically, Eco Garden Supply has the tools to help you succeed. From premium organic nutrients to advanced hydro systems, they've got everything you need to cultivate like a pro at home. Head to ecogardensupply.com now or visit them in person at 800 Transfer Road, Suite 3, St. Paul, Minnesota 55114 and elevate your cannabis. Eco Garden Supply, growing supplies for the serious grower. Are you a social equity applicant trying to save money on LED grow lights? Then here's some good news for you. You could get up to 75% off your lighting project, covered entirely by rebates, when you team up with a local nonprofit, Center for Energy and Environment. Since 2000, CEE has provided free energy consulting to Xcel Energy customers throughout Minnesota. Their team of lighting experts will help you get the highest rebates possible and take care of the paperwork so you don't have to. Starting a grow operation can be overwhelming, so take advantage of this free support from CEE. Go to mncee.org/GrowLED to sign up for your free consultation and find out how much you can save with lighting rebates. Again, that's mncee.org/GrowLED. Go get signed up today.
name is Marcus Harkis. Today I'm pleased to introduce two of my business partners, Jamil Jackson and Justin Carter. Together we've applied for a social equity retail license and a delivery license. And we're hoping to open a dispensary open for business sometime this summer or fall, whenever the OCM gives us the green light. So I wanted to bring my brothers into the studio today to just have a discussion, because we've had a long time vision of opening up collaborating in this emerging legal market. So without further ado, please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I go first. Thanks for having me, for one. Thanks for partnering with me, for
Yes,
two.
sir.
I'm Jamil Jackson, born in Oceanside, California, but raised in Minneapolis. I've been here since I was 3 months old, so basically from Minneapolis, North Minneapolis. Yeah. Been a resident of North Minneapolis my whole life. To date, I do a lot of things, man. I own a few businesses. Interior remodeling business, automotive sales and distribution business, lawn care business. Just started a junk removal business. I have a tattoo shop, working on the second one. We're about to open up 2 barber shops, and a few other ventures that I'm getting into, including this one. Outside of that, I'm a teacher. I teach a course called Black Culture to males of color within Minneapolis Public Schools. I am a high school basketball coach at Camden High School. I own and operate a pretty successful basketball league that helps get individuals contracts across seas. I'll stop there. There's a few other things, but that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
And a hell of a family man, too.
Yeah, and a hell of a family man. I love my family.
Yeah.
So my name is Justin Carter, originally from Minneapolis, South Minneapolis. I went to Roosevelt High School. From there, I did music for a while, touring with Devin the Dude, Snoop Dogg, Redman, Method Man, Twister, Scarface, and that's kind of what got me into cannabis, really, like crossing paths with cannabis is, being on tour and stopping in Denver. It was a meet and greet at a dispensary. And I said, oh, it's legal out here? Wait a minute. So I thought it was just Cali at the time. And then, when I went to Denver, I knew I was moving out there. I told everyone I'm moving out here, man. And then through that, path, started working $10 an hour trimming bud in a warehouse, and that's what started it. I'd wake up at 6, go to the grow, trim, and I wanted to be like in every facet of that business. So I would tell my boss when we're done trimming or in the grow, I want to go to the store and close the store. So from 6 to about 9, I was working in the industry, just kind of like learning everything, and
6 a.m. to 9 p.m.?
Yeah. So, like, the grow was early. The early shift was the grow. And that's kind of how I got my bones in it. After a few months in the grow trimming, I remember Rich, the owner, brought me into this room. It's about 500 plants. And he was like, all right, this is your room, Java. If you fuck up, you're fired. I was just like, yo. And then, from there, this is right around the time, out there they had to sign off ballots to get the cannabis legalization out there. So this is around this time. And then so the company I was working for wanted no parts of recreational. He did not want any parts of recreational. He was like, I don't want them all in my business like that. You know what I mean? So they sold. And then I wound up going over to the Green Solution. Started with those guys, and that's kind of when I really got into the retail operations side of it. Like, I left the grow, went to retail, was at the Grape Street location when the legalization first hit, and it was just like a madhouse. We went from seeing 400 people a day to about 2,000 people a day, and it was just constant. You know what I mean? It was crazy. And yeah, just kind of like that's where I started getting my, sharpening my tools in cannabis. And from there, opening stores and just kind of growing with the industry. I've opened up several locations and cultivation centers and Yeah, so then eventually moved to Michigan, opened up some stores in Michigan. That's where I'm currently at now. And, just I'm happy to be partnering with these guys right here with you guys. This is, for me, this is like the dream. That was kind of like my end game was open up a store and get a house on the lake and raise my kids. You know what I'm saying? And just run this. You know what I mean? And I think it's important for black people to have some kind of imprint in this industry. Like I didn't see that many of us in Denver. You know what I mean? I was happy to kind of get the game. I get the game from, the white guys and the Mexicans. You know what I mean? I learned how to grow, and they gave me all the game. So for me, it's important to teach people like how to grow. I love any brother or sister that comes to me and they're like, I want to learn how to grow. You know what I mean? I'm like, let's go. You know what I mean? So that's what's really important to me too. You know what I mean? Is making sure that our people have a footprint.
I mean, I want to bring it back a little bit. Like, how did y'all grow up? Like, who are the men that you've become? Like, tell us your story a little further. Because I know y'all got some deep stories.
Yeah, man. Let's see. I'm a product of a 2-parent household to begin with. I had my mom and dad in my life in the early years of my life. When I got to high school, though, shit fell apart. So my dad left my family. My mom became an addict, and I became the man of the house, the breadwinner, all of that in the matter of about a 6-month span. So at the time, I was just a athlete, right? So I didn't know nothing about drugs or any that world at all. My parents did a good job of keeping us active. My dad was my coach in all my sports. We played basketball, football, baseball. So we were always moving. My dad always had his joints, right? But we were so active, I didn't even consider it. It wasn't even a thought process of mine.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I found myself in a situation of having to take care of the family that my friend group changed. So instead of hanging out in school, now I'm hanging out with the guys that are leaving school. Still my friends to this day, still my brothers, still love them to death. So my struggle switched, so my environment switched, right? So before that, I was with the 2-parent household kids, and we were doing the sports stuff and all that stuff. Well, now I'm in the shitty slums, right? And so now dad's not there to take me to the games and take me to the lake and take me to all those things. So now I'm hanging out at the corner a little more, right? So this becomes my friend group, and they exposed me to the street element of life. And so I got involved in that. And
How old were you?
I was at the time that I smoked my first joint, I was 16.
Ooh.
The time that I sold my first bag of weed, I was 14. So my crew was an older crew. Well, let me rephrase that. My older cousin, him and his friends were moving stuff. And so I started hanging out with them. And so I became their lookout, if you will. And so I started to learn the language and the lingo and how to move in it. But I was also a book smart kid, right? And so as I moved up into the world of hustling, of entrepreneurship, I was able to use those tactics, right, to keep myself, an element of myself clear, if you will, right? So I wasn't on the street corners. I didn't hustle that way. I had my clientele, I had good clientele, and I was able to move discreetly. When I was 26, I was arrested with 420 pounds of marijuana.
I'm sure it wasn't funny then.
I said it again.
I'm sure it wasn't funny then. I'm laughing now. But.
Yeah, no, it absolutely wasn't. But it was an experience, man. It was a part of my process of becoming the man that I am.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, there were some things that God was trying to awaken me from. He was knocking on my door, and I just wasn't listening. And so it really took this event, right, for me to really take a step back and realize who I was, what those other situations really meant in terms of being able to walk away from, no harm, no scratches, and then this situation. So I being full transparency, and we talk about it now. My brother was on the case with me, my younger brother, and he actually took responsibility for the situation because of who I was to the family.
Yeah.
Right. I had sacrificed myself, taking care of the family, working, making sure the bills are paid, making sure everybody's good. So he's like, bro, you got to go back home. Right. I've already got some priors. I'm going to sit this one out. You continue to take care of the family. I didn't agree with it, but I mean, he put me in that situation. Right. Now, the system said that that's not okay. And so then they indicted me with the RICO and basically said I forced my brother to to take the case.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so, but God was on my side. Through the grace of God, for whatever reason, I don't know why, still to this day. I wasn't mature enough back then to ask the questions, and now he's gone. But that judge gave me 3 years probation instead of any prison time.
Wow.
And his words to me were, his exact words, and I mean, I live by them, or I live for them, I should say, is I see something in you that you don't see in yourself, and I'm going to give you another chance. So today my organization is Change Equals Opportunity. And I mentor youth males of color, 10 to 30, in the areas of education, employment, and life skills. And so I expose them to different areas of life, different ways to become entrepreneurs. And so I stick with that, right? When I got home and I started really thinking about, because I had to spend 6 months in Vegas until Minneapolis approved my transfer for probation. And so during that time, I was away from my family, not working. And so I really got to really hone in on what this could have been, what this 6 months could have been, 25 years, right? Yeah.
Wow. That could have,
it could have been 25 years,
God
right?
damn.
And so now coming home, thinking about all the men before me that got 10 years, 12 years for half of what I had, right? For pieces of what I had. And so then it was my responsibility to fill in the gaps for them, right? So you're locked up, but your seeds are out here, or your nephews are out here. Well, he didn't give me that. He didn't give me, that freedom for nothing, right? And so
wow.
I said today, doing the work that I do based off of for that situation.
That's phenomenal. Like, I'm aware of this story, but it gives me chills to hear it here right now.
I mean, it's a book, man.
For sure.
And every time I tell it, people are like, "That's not real." But there's other pieces to it. Like my lawyer didn't show up to court. It was crazy, man. We can get into that in another podcast. But but no, that was my introduction. That's and even today, like you just said, right, making sure that people of color have an imprint. We were impacted. And still impacted to this day, right? And now as a teacher and as a mentor and someone who invests in youth to help them start their own businesses, right? They're in this situation because of the impact of their uncles or their parents that I didn't have to serve that time for, right? So as an ecosystem, it's our responsibility to step up. And I'm honored to be that. And in this situation, again, now leveraging my relationships within city, within community, to potentially have an opportunity to provide jobs, right? To provide not just a job, but a well-paying job, right? A career,
That part.
right? In this industry that we all have suffered from one way or another, it's God speaking to me. So when we talk about that, we know we're going to get this license, right? I believe in it from my journey that this is why. This is the why.
Yeah, I love that.
That's crazy. Like hearing all the different stories and the pathways that lead us like to the end result, which is, going to be opening up a business. It's like meant to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. It's pretty cool, man.
That's
Yeah, I mean, and then, our relationship, right? Like, I think you knew my brothers first.
Yeah, me and Kareem were in the same grade at Henry.
Right. And then I knew you were doing your thing, and I think I reached out to you like, hey, I need to holler at you. And then from there, our relationship just blossomed, and listening to you talk and listening to you tell me your visions and your dreams, and not just that, but seeing all the sacrifices that you were making for what nobody else saw. And that meant something to me. And so we've always spoke if the opportunity to present itself, like we were going to do this. So again, it's part of the manifestation.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what about you? Can you tell us more about your backstory leading to this point? I mean, whatever you're comfortable with.
No, for sure. So yeah, grew up South Minneapolis in the 30s. Played football pretty much my whole life up until, college. But like as a kid, I grew up in the 30s in the Powderhorn neighborhood, King Park, running those streets.
Tell the people about the 30s who don't know.
Okay, yeah, my bad. So, so the 30s is a neighborhood, right, in Minneapolis, where pretty much all the streets are numbered from 39th up until 29th, which is considered Lake Street, right? So, in a section of that city between I don't know, I'd say maybe Cedar Avenue to maybe Nicollet Avenue or Lindale Avenue, that's considered the 30s, right? The 30s is a neighborhood. Growing up, gang banging, you know what I mean? That's a predominantly blood neighborhood. Bloods, vice lords, we're all through there. So that's where I grew up, and those are the guys that I grew up with. You know what I mean? So, just kind of running the streets and doing all those things. You know what I mean? And just being a knucklehead and still kind of playing football. I never knew my dad growing up. So it was just my mom. So she'd be at work, and I get out of school and I'm hitting the streets, you know what I mean, and I'm going to the parks and running around with a lot of the older fellas, you know what I mean, and just kind of doing all those things. I think, but that's kind of where I learned a lot of the structure, because I didn't have a dad, so I'd get structure from a lot of the older brothers, you know what I mean. So, going to elementary school and. It was always, football was always my thing. I was 10 years old and we were walking in Powderhorn Park and I saw him practicing football, and I told my mom I want to do that, and ever since then, playing football, kind of running the streets as well, and I kind of played both sides of the fence really. I always took football serious. When I got into high school is when it really became a real thing as far as football was concerned, you know what I mean? It became all state, all city. Number one rusher in the city and getting your name in newspapers and on Prep Sports Extra. And so that became my focus. It kind of pulled me away from the streets, which is good, but still dabbling a little bit. Right. So then, I wound up, I had to go to JUCO because my grades weren't the best. So, I went to JUCO and then wound up transferring to the University of Minnesota when Greg Hudson was the defensive coordinator there. So I got recruited as a hybrid safety linebacker. And this is I was still in the streets kind of messing around. So I messed up and caught a case while I was finally got to the U of M, you know what I mean? And wound up catching a robbery charge, aggravated robbery, So that's kind of when it was oh shit, did a little too much, you know what I mean? So I wound up, it was a whole thing, man. My friend told on me, you know what I mean? It was my best friend, and it was his whole deal, but I was I got your back, let's do this, you know what I mean? And he wound up telling on me, you know what I'm saying? So they gave me 2 years, right? 36 months, do 24. So then that's really kind of when I kind of transitioned. I started writing, writing music. That's kind of when the music stuff started to happen for me, is doing that prison time and then just kind of writing, you know what I mean? And just kind of going through that time. When I got released, I still played football. I was doing semi-pro football, going around the country. I got invited to a couple all-star games in Hawaii. And my PO let me go. My PO was real cool about that. You know what I mean? He was I'll let you go to Hawaii. It's cool, So, I did all that stuff. Wound up getting hurt. My collarbone kind of got hurt. So then that pretty much stopped football. You know what I mean? So then from there, that's kind of when the music kind of was I had got out and started kind of just locally doing music with a lot of the people out here. And yeah, I mean, as far as my childhood, that's kind of how like that went, and then like from there just doing music, meeting Devin the Dude and kind of those guys, and that's when like I just started kind of touring, and then it went from like when football was the focus, that was like the focus, but once I couldn't play football anymore, I kind of took like all of like that drive and just turned it over into music. Cannabis has always been a part of my life though, like since we were kids. I'd always smell my mom and them smoking in the, in the living room, and I always remember seeing those little roach clips. Y'all remember those roach clips? Yeah. And I used to be like, oh man, I just love the smell of it. You know what I mean? Like, it smells good. I did, like I remember the first time my aunt's husband, he like fronted me a sack, you know what I mean? He was like, you want to get some money, man? He fronted me a sack, he was like, just bring me back $50, you know what I mean? So I started kind of learning how that worked, and it's like I was selling weed all like through high school, and I remember one time my coach, man, like, oh man, somebody hated on me, dude. Like my coach calls me in the office and he was like, hey Carter, you got weed in your locker? And I was like, no, who told you that? He was like, they're gonna send the dogs to your locker, man. Like, and I was like, thanks, coach. You know what I mean? Like, we got rid of it, and then that's why I was like, man, I can't trust nobody, bro. Like I was like, somebody was kind of hating on me, man, and but yeah, that was kind of like my whole like process with cannabis during that whole time. We were always smoking, Optimos and Garcia Vegas and just, like the usual stuff. I remember like the first time, we had these Mexican family across the alley from us, man, and that's the first time I had like a plug. You know what I mean? And they would have the brick weed. Like, you remember the old brick weed that you had to like pop?
Oh, yeah.
And you bring it in like a little, it was like a little VCR box. I'll never forget that. Man, I thought I was the man, dog. Like, but yeah, you know what I mean? Just, that's like my whole history as far as like, growing up, and I've always loved cannabis. That's always been a part of my life. Like, I've been smoking, I don't know, probably way too young to, you know what I mean? But yeah.
I remember you and me met in like 2015.
Yeah.
And I was working for Minnesota Normal at the time, and one of my staff people met you while I was off somewhere in the park, and he said, you got to meet this guy. He works in the Colorado market, blah, blah, blah. And then we connected, I think, over the phone.
Yeah.
And I told you I was organizing this conference at the convention center.
Yeah.
The Legalize It Minnesota Political Action Conference, I called it. And you flew out here from Colorado and did a workshop. And, that's when we started talking about, what, you shouldn't just be a manager in the industry.
Yep.
You should be an owner, and we should figure something out. Like, we're working on changing the law in Minnesota so it's legal like it is in Colorado.
Yeah.
And tell us about that.
Yeah, that's
it's a decade in the making.
I know, man. Like, that was one of the craziest things, right? Is like working in the industry. Like, by that point in my life, I was a manager opening up some stores, and I was like managing the Grape Street location of the Green Solution. And then I never forget that, man. Like, meeting Marcus Harkis, right, in Minnesota Normal, to me, it was like, oh, I made it now. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, yo, like, I mean, like, this is, because, like, for me, like, I'm in Colorado, in the industry, and it's new. So, like, all my friends back home are kind of like, oh, man, it's crazy. But then, like, being able to deal with somebody from Minnesota Normal and then have these events and, like, get an invite to come out there to an event at the convention center, you know what I mean? And being able to do that workshop. Like, Marcus, that was kind of like the beginning for me of like, oh, we can do more. You know what I mean? So I think that was a real pivotal time in my life, like meeting you, coming out here, and just the bond was already there, like, you know what I mean? And so, like, I remember that. It was like, I felt like I was the man, dog. Like, man, I'm coming out here to do a workshop with Minnesota Normal, you know what I mean? And I think that's also when I learned about the knowledge I had. It was just an everyday thing to me, you know what I mean? And then coming out there and talking with people, and this is like, oh, what, you didn't know this? You know what I mean? Like, oh, of course, like, not everyone had that exposure. So that's kind of when I learned about just, like, the knowledge I had and how important it was, you know what I mean? And like, what it was worth, really. Like, at that point, I was like, oh, I could start consulting maybe and like charging people for this info, you know
Yeah,
what I
real
mean?
shit.
So like that's kind of like you open like my eyes to all of that. You know what I mean? So that moment was a real pivotal point for me in my cannabis journey, my professional journey. Like I would have never thought that we can, you know, I would have never thought it was going to be legal in Minnesota to start with. And you were Marcus Harkins was always like, hey, this is going to happen, bro. Like we're about to go lobby, man. Come with me. And I'm like, what's lobbying, man? Like he's Marcus was beating down doors for cannabis for minutes. Like everyone should really be thanking this man. You know what I mean? Like for this
Real
law.
shit.
I've had conversations with Marcus. Like we've been dreaming about talking about opening our own business for years. You know what I mean? And there's been times, man, like I told Marcus one time, like, man, they're never going to let this shit hit out here, bro. Like, I'm going to Michigan. I'm going to a legal state. Remember, I was like, I can't live in Minnesota, no, bro. I can't work out here, you know what I mean? Right. So I never forget having those convos with Marcus and Marcus being like, you got to believe, Jay. Like, you got to believe, man. I'd be really frustrated with the market at the time and just, they didn't want it. They didn't care. You know what I mean? And Marcus was just still banging down doors, man, up at the Capitol, harassing them people. You know what I mean? And kudos to you for that, bro. Like, for sure.
Thank you.
You're a legend.
Right, how did you get into this? Like, how did you get such to the point where it was like your world, right? Like, again, even when we started connecting, it was your world, right? Everything was based on, even your jobs had to correlate with, you know, your ability to be able to lobby and, you know, and do this. And
he was lobbying as a baby, probably. Just go with
No, but yeah, like I always question that. Like I always saw the passion and again, that for me in the authenticity, right? In the way you presented yourself, but also presented the product, right? It always meant something. And I at that point, when I met you, I was just a casual user, right? Like even selling, I didn't give a fuck. It was weed, right? Like somebody's gonna buy it. It wasn't about necessarily having the best quality or this name brand or that, you know. And so honestly, it wasn't until I started rocking with you that I started like paying attention to that, like really examining things. But so my question is, how did you get to the point where it mattered that much to you?
That's a good question. Well, you know, I grew up on the north side too, and I was around a lot of people, a lot of teenagers smoking when I was a teen, but like y'all, I was into sports, so I was staying away from it. But so like I was always around it in my teens, and I didn't really become a daily smoker till like I was 20. But I was an activist since high school, you know what I mean? In 2003, I did this professional community organizer training for a year. And then I just started having organizing jobs, youth development, community development. Then it got into like housing policy, workforce policy, all types of advocacy and organizing work. But it was in the nonprofit sector, and I was burnt the fuck out, excuse my English, by 2014.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done with this nonprofit industrial complex. And it was 2014 when I met this guy, and he invited me to this Minnesota Normal meeting to do an organizer training for 15 minutes. Then I found out about this organization. And at that point, that was like 2014, so 11 years ago. So I'm like in my 30s at that time. I had been like a closet smoker since I was 20.
Right.
Because this shit's illegal. Because,
Right,
you know, we've been harassed by
right,
police
right.
for this shit. Because I've lost jobs for this shit. You know what I'm saying? Over some fucking herb and a UA or whatever. So I had this political background, and I knew how to lobby because of all these jobs I had. And then they gave me a job for Minnesota Normal. I had a full-time job all of a sudden in 2014 lobbying for legalization. And it really, the light came on for me that this was even an issue when Colorado legalized it. Because that was the first state that did it in a non-medical way. And I didn't even know about the medical stuff because we didn't get medical in Minnesota till 2014.
Yeah.
California did it in 1996. That's when I was barely graduating from high school.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So Minnesota's been in the past with herb for a minute. But because I had this full-time job in 2014, starting in May, like I had the luxury of time to learn about Prohibition, the history of Prohibition, how racist it was. I got to learn how racist Minnesota was with Prohibition. I mean, in Minneapolis at one point, it was like 11 black people getting arrested for every one white person. You know, in statewide, it was like 5-1, in Hennepin County, Ramsey County, like 9-1. So I'm learning about this. I'm learning about legalization happening around the rest of the country. And then one state after another, everybody is doing it except for us.
Right.
But because I became an expert about cannabis and legalization, prohibition and shit, you know, I heard way too many stories. You know what I'm saying? I heard from hundreds of people about how they've been harmed by getting criminalized.
Right.
I've never been arrested for it until this summer, which is some bullshit. After legalization, I get arrested for it. Anyway, but I had heard how prohibition had harmed so many people. You know what I mean? I had heard your story, how you had faced that charge. If they would have gave you 25 years, you wouldn't be here now. You would be in a cage right now.
I would still have, let's see, that was 2006. So I'd still have 5 years. Wait, no. I had 25 years, 2006. So that's 31.
God damn.
Yeah.
That's
so I
crazy.
wouldn't have seen my kids grow up, no college graduations, no nothing. And the judge and everybody, I mean, not the judge, but the prosecutor and the police officer, that black officer, was right there, and they were livid that I didn't get 25 years.
Yeah, man. I mean, so I learned about how many lives have been damaged by this shit. But then on the other side, I heard thousands of people telling me how cannabis is like medicine for them.
Right.
I mean, if it's physical, mental, emotional, you know, millions of people depend on this healing plant.
Yeah.
And there's no reason anybody should be getting criminalized for it. So, I mean, I just became a social entrepreneur in the Minnesota cannabis space, lobbying for 9 years. I mean, when it was all over in August 2023, I had to think, what have I done consistently for 9 years? Nothing but raise kids.
I know, yeah.
But yeah, it's become my life's work. And then I met Justin, you know what I mean, in 2015. And I'm like, okay, this is not just a social justice thing. This is economic justice. This is economic opportunity.
right.
Yeah.
This is entrepreneurship. I mean, at my core, since I was 7 years old, I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
So I'm like, you know, I'm championing this social justice, racial justice, but I'm like, this is also businesses. These are jobs. And so, yeah, and we need to be represented in the industry, not just represented in the fucking criminal legal system,
Right.
you know, getting targeted by the system. So yeah, it's become my life's work because I just heard way too many stories, and it came to a certain point where I'm like, yeah, cannabis has been saving my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Since I'm 20 years old.
Yeah.
All this shit I experienced with police, like getting racially profiled, and I got attacked by police a couple times. One time I'm trying to censor myself, but one time I got harassed for like an hour and sexually assaulted by this female cop because this bitch pulled up on us by the river and seen the smoke but couldn't find no herb. So she terrorized me for an hour over that shit.
Yeah.
And that was like in my early 20s. So yeah, this became my life's work because I know it's way deeper than just getting fun, having fun getting high.
Right.
I mean, that shouldn't be illegal, but yeah, I knew that this was like, what's his name? The black scientist, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Okay. Yeah.
He said he wants this quote on his headstone when he dies by somebody man. But he said, "Be ashamed to die until you've won some victory for humanity." And I've worked on so many different like social, economic, justice, equity issues. I'm like, little do people know that cannabis legalization is a big fucking deal.
Big fucking
I mean, this is the beginning of the end of the drug war.
Right.
And if people don't know how serious it is, I mean, the internet is right there for you. I mean, bruh, it's a big deal. It's way deeper than people having fun getting high, especially when this is medicine. You know what I mean? It's yeah.
You know, it's funny that like
Don't I know?
Yes. Horace Mann, yeah. Yeah. And so like I embodied that with this cause. Yeah.
yeah. You know what's funny is like kind of like that stigma that people would always have about just sitting around and getting high, but then like it's so much deeper than that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's funny, like, you know, even like when California went medical, you know what I mean? I think with all like everything pretty much went medical first, and
Yep.
you know, like with the oil and these kids having these seizures and stuff like that, you know, it was kind of funny that like, you know, these little kids would come into the shop, you know what I mean? We give them this little oil. I'd see moms come back crying because now their kid, you know what I mean, is like not having like no more seizures,
Yeah.
just because of this oil. And you know, it's for sure like not legal to give this to your kid at the time. And I feel like with all the people knowing that stuff, like people know that this is a medical plant, you know what I mean? But they still look at it like, oh, you guys are just stoners though. Or like, I don't think people even want to look at cannabis as a healing medicine.
I think, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think it was more of the capitalist nature of the pharmaceutical industry, right?
Yeah.
And so that heals you. We need to keep giving you this shit that doesn't heal you, so you keep coming back, so we can continue to make the money.
That's
right?
a good point. Yeah.
And so if we not only criminalize it, but then also stereotype it to where you're just lazy fuckers that don't want to get up and do nothing but smoke weed all day. But shit, that gets my brain going. You know what I mean? That calms me down at the end of my night to where I can release all of the friction and tension that I have from my day and actually dig into my wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And give her some love and affection and not just from the physical touch, but from the soul.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the spiritual connection of it. Right. And the one thing that she always says to me, and she'll tell me, go get high because you're more affectionate, right? When you smoke, right? And so, but then it takes us and, to come out the closet, because it took me a while too. I mean, I used to, every time you'd even ask me to go to an event, I'm like, nah, I can't really, participate because of some of the positions that I hold. But now at this point, right, being able to now see it from a business perspective, right? Now I can be more free to speak of it from my personal perspective as well, because that helps sells the story, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's just it's crazy how this our country works, and even so much that for people of color, how they use even things that will help them. Right, will restrict themselves from shit just to harm us.
Yeah. Like, I became a public advocate for this, but if it wasn't for me having a job to do that, like I might have never became public about it.
Right.
So like I completely understand why people didn't want to like publicly advocate for it, because people could lose their jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, people were losing. Some people have lost their children in child custody over this shit.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So like I understand why people have been afraid, but now fortunately it's legal. I mean, there's still certain jobs that you can get fired if they test you for it.
Yeah.
But today in Minnesota, like over 1 million people don't have to worry about that shit.
Right.
So like it's a big deal.
Well, and then again, you still have that element of the street element now, until we get fully legalized and we have retail shops. So there are still those people who don't indulge as much as they want to indulge because they don't have access.
Right. Especially like older people who don't have a plug.
Yeah. I think the street element's gonna probably always be
Always
there.
Always.
You know what I mean? Like
Always.
in every state that you're in. Michigan is real crazy because of that caregiver. Like Michigan's caregiver market was so robust. Sometimes I would argue with people and be like, I'd argue that they were probably a little more robust than California's. I mean, I don't know, maybe let me not overstep too much, because Humboldt County is pretty serious. But I just remember like the Michigan caregiver market, like they were making so much money out there, and they were all medical caregivers. high plant counts. They were growing everywhere. And then all of a sudden, recreation hits. You know what I mean? And that was the first time, like, I seen it happen in Colorado for sure. Like, kill the caregiver is the term, right? And it was kind of a soft kill in Colorado. But Michigan, like, these guys went to war with the caregivers. And just like we were talking about what you said about the pharmaceutical companies.
You talking about the licensed businesses?
Like, yeah, the actual licensed companies, you know what I mean? These big companies, these national brands who are moving to Michigan, you know, they're like, oh, we got to get rid of these caregivers because they're really taking from our clientele. Like, it's the street element too. And the street element was kind of tied in with caregiving out there because these guys are growing and they're selling on the streets. They're selling to patients. You know what I mean?
And
so,
it's not staying in Michigan.
And it's not staying in Michigan. There's so much, you know, going on. So these big companies come online and they're trying to attack and kill these caregivers. So the biggest thing that they would start is saying, which they had a really good point, is like, we're more regulated, so our product has been tested.
Right.
I mean, the amount of powdery mildew that's in grows in Michigan is ridiculous. And I'm curious to see what happens in Minnesota because we have all this moisture and all these lakes around here, how that's going to affect the cultivation centers in Minnesota. Like, fighting powdery mildew is a regular thing in Michigan. Yo, like, I'm always looking at these guys when I get these packages into these stores. I'm checking yeast and mold and how much, you know what I mean? Like, how much water did you guys have on these plants? So, but like, for all that, you know, when they start to kill the caregiver, like these are the people, you know, the street element and the people who've been doing this for so long. You know, that was the first time I saw a cannabis boycott. And these people are like posting all of these brands on social media, like Kiva and like all these brands. And they're like, don't shop with these people. And I remember I'm opening Hyatt at the time, like, please don't let us be on this list. Please don't. Like, we were too small, though, you know what I mean? And you know me, like, I'm shopping with everybody. Like, I'm a people person for sure. So, like, I'm dealing with these brands. So, like, you know, they couldn't really say that we were a part of this major movement. But some of these big dog companies that were coming in, these national brands, and they were like, nah, boycott them. So it was a whole thing. Even to this day, even up to like a year ago, you know, the pricing. So like they tried that to kill the caregiver. So now what do? You know what? You just tank the prices of the pound. You know, when I moved to Michigan, pounds were about 25. Like they went to 27, 25. You know, up until like a year ago, they're talking about $400 a pound.
Right. Wow.
You know what I mean? Like these major companies, these major cultivators are just blowing these rooms out with major pounds, and then they're going to these stores and they're like, you don't got to go to this caregiver. Come to me and I'll give you my pounds for $200, $400 a pound.
Wow.
And you're just washing the caregiver out. Who can live? You know what I mean? Like, I can't survive $400 a pound. Like, it costs about depending on how you're growing, it costs about $200 to $300 to make the pound. You know what I mean? So, like, if you're paying $200 or $300 to make the pound and your competition's selling them for 400 pounds, and I have 800 pounds online right now for you to come and get. You know what I mean? So the caregiver, like, that was the most aggressive way to kill the caregiver I've ever seen. Is the Michigan market is crazy.
That's violent.
It's crazy out there, right? And yeah,
I got a friend in the Montana market, licensed and all that, and he said recently, he told me this shit a few weeks ago. He's like, it costs me, because he has a small grow. It costs me $500 per pack.
Yep.
But now I got these big retail companies telling me we'll only spend $400 per pack.
See what I'm saying?
So he's like, now I'm insolvent. I can't pay my bills. I'm finished.
I've never seen that before. Right? Like I've never seen, like, Colorado was different because the way they killed the caregiver is they would just regulate you to death. Right? Like, they were coming into my friends' grows, you know what I mean? Like, these guys who were teaching me how to grow, they had their own operations and licenses. And, you know, the MED, the Marijuana Enforcement Division, is what it's called in Colorado. And they will come through here, they come through your grow, and, oh, that's a leaf right there? 30 days suspended. Just for having a fan leaf on the floor. You know what I mean? Like, they're just finding the smallest, minute things to violate you on. And that's how they killed the caregiver in Denver or in Colorado. Is just like, you guys are small grows. You can't take all these fines we're about to smack you with. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then we'd rather deal with these major brands. Like, I mean, the green solution was a part of it too. Like I'm not gonna tell. Like I definitely worked for a company that played a part in it because, you know, we have 20 stores, some of the biggest cultivation facilities in the state.
Were y'all the biggest retail chain?
Yeah, it was us and Liv. Liv was kind of up there too. But I think by the time I left Denver, TGS had, or Green Solution had 27 stores.
Wow.
And I think Liv had closed a couple. So by that time, we were the biggest retailer and had the biggest cultivation at that time, building out the biggest cultivation center in the country at the time. You know what I mean? So, and like, so when these guys would come through and do these walkthroughs, like with the state, they're telling me flat out, like, you know, they're coming in my store and I'm talking to the regulators and they're telling me flat out, like, I'd rather deal with your company because we have one person to go to if there's a problem, and we know you guys run your operation the exact same way. So, like, we don't want to deal with all these small caregivers and all these small, like, we don't want to deal with these guys when we know you guys could just keep buying up locations. You have, like, your whole, it just makes it easier for them to regulate. And that makes sense. Like, I get it. You know what I mean? But then what does that mean for the little guy? What does that mean for the small business owner? Like, it kind of, it's just weird how they do that. But then that's just that system. You know what I mean? It's like that ecosystem. Big fish eats the little fish. And you know what I mean?
Until it starts to level out. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, the benefit for Minnesota going so late, we were like number 23, the 23rd state. And there's still a gang of states that ain't legal. I mean, we're surrounded by them up here. But we tried to learn from all the other states. So, like, we limit how big a company can be in Minnesota. And, I mean, there's a lot of limits that create a lot more opportunity. I mean, it's still going to be tough for somebody with a 5,000-foot grow to compete with somebody with a 30,000-foot grow because economies of scale. But I think the small businesses have a greater opportunity here to survive. I mean, it's going to be bloody because in any industry, most businesses they're not going to make it.
Right.
But I think we have more chance here. But Minnesota is a very unique market. I mean, what gives y'all hope, or what are your fears about this Minnesota market that we're going to enter this year?
You know, for me, it's a little different for me because you guys are in the industry on different levels, right? Like you with the lobbying and learning everything, and you from the being a cutter to all the way through and all that. I'm just a nigga that smoked weed, right? So, and in my world, right, and just speaking honestly, right, the what I've gone through in my life in terms of facing that 25 years and removing myself from it. One, I know I got God on my side, right? I know I'm a good human being, right? And I want to see everybody win. And through you, we got here. So I think we got the best of the best in the business. So I just don't. Yeah. From that perspective, right? I don't fear. Like I'm rocking with you, right? Yeah. Like, and so again, you just tell me where to sign, right? Like, you know what I mean? That's just honestly how our relationship is, and I trust it. And so, and I know that you're so dedicated to it that we can't fail.
Yep.
Obsessed.
And so with that, my job is to make sure that I keep you alive.
Protect this man at all costs.
Right.
Thank you.
To where we go. But no, on the realness though, you know, I'm an investor, right? Like I invest in things, and I've accepted that there are going to be things that fail in this process. But I believe in relationships and the connections, and if you're doing it with true passion, it can't fail, right? And I've seen that through all the things that I have invested my time and energy in. There are some things that I've thrown money at that I really didn't care about, right? It had no real impact in me, and it was if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. This impacts me, right? This impacts a lot of people in my life. I also am with my organization. We have contracts with the county and the city, and we work with youth that are on probation and youth that are incarcerated, right? So a lot of my youth are incarcerated because of marijuana charges. And so again, being someone, and then also being someone who has my track, right? No high school diploma, no college graduation, but am at the level of success that I am, I'm an example.
Yeah.
Right.
Role model.
And so I can't fail.
Yeah. I love
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I'm at. I mean, outside of that, I don't have no fear in it, man. I really don't. I think that the beauty is that we're coming in at the beginning. We don't have to. We're coming in at the beginning, and so we're equal with everybody else, right? Like obviously there's going to be some companies, some big companies that come in and all that, but I'm talking about the grassroots people that are coming into this. I think that with your experience, and my experience and relationships, we're already a few steps above, right? Yeah. With our mindset and our understanding of how we want to operate as a business, as a franchise, right? How do we want to incorporate our community into the ecosystem of this? I think we're thinking on a different level than most people who are applying.
For sure.
Yeah, facts.
You got anything to add about your hopes or any fears about this market?
No, I mean, I think Jamil said it perfect. I think with just the way everything came together with the partnership that we have right here, I don't. I mean, there's going to be stumbles. I think I would probably say one of my biggest, I wouldn't say it's a fear, but I think one of our earliest battles we're going to face is the product. You know what I mean? Like we were talking, we're trying to get these numbers together and we're trying to figure out, like we're trying to project these numbers for the business. And the first thing is like, there's no historical like data on price per pound in Minnesota, right? Or price per eighth or ounce or whatever. Like, we have the basic parameters, right? Probably 200, 250 per ounce, like depending. Everyone really just cares about the THC. You know what I mean? So you can only pretty much adjust your price off of the level of THC that you have. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to try and sell nobody a $400 ounce and the THC is like 12%. They're going to be like, no, right. I could try to talk to you about terpenes. We could talk about all that, but at the end of the day, these guys want, the highest THC, I think that the product, like when we get online, we were just talking about this, like when we get online, there's only going to be a certain amount of people we can secure product from, right? Like maybe some reservations, maybe these two companies I think that are already online. So my concern is like, you guys better not aggressively price these pounds. Do you know what I mean? Right, like just because you guys are the only ones that have it right now, like don't come to me talking about $5,000 a pound. You know what I mean? Like knock it off, bro. So at some point, and it's kind of scary because like
18.
Yeah, come and work with me here, right? Like, so my thing is, I just hope that the market doesn't do that. You know what I mean? And look, either way it goes, we're gonna make it happen. You know what I mean? And then I think just doing that, like, if you want to play around in this industry, we're gonna be here. We're not going anywhere. So if you want to come online right now and try to bust our head per pound, I promise you we're going to know that, and we're all going to talk. Everyone talks in this industry. Yeah. So you're going to be the guy. Like, don't be that guy. You know what I mean? Hopefully, you know what I mean, no one's going to be that guy. And then, honestly, like, this is going to be a major market. And once they start giving out these licenses, like, it's just, if we can hold on tight and whoever the producer is doesn't, like, overcharge us, and we can just get online, get our store open, get compliant, get this product, and just start building this customer base. You know what I mean? And then we're doing that within a year to two. Like, let's say, August, company gets their license, right? Like, you can't have plants in your facility until you have that license. So you go as a cultivator, right? So you do your build out, you get your lights, spend all this money, and then you still have to wait for those guys to do that walkthrough. Okay, looks good. Bow, there's your license on the wall. Now you can start bringing in your clones. So that's, 90 days. It's going to take a long time for these companies to kind of get online and start producing, like these newer companies, to start producing pounds. So I probably say like that's the one thing that I'm always thinking about when we talk about the store is like, okay, I'm preparing for that type of stuff. And just like, all right, how are we going to maneuver and be friendly with these cultivators right now, because we're going to need them. So like, be friendly with these guys. Hopefully they're friendly with us, and make the numbers make sense. And then start catching these new guys that are online. And then, everyone's going to hit about the same time. If these licenses hit at the same time, people might already have their warehouses built out right now. And they're just like, we're just going to wait for this license and then bow. But it's going to be about a year or so. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of where we're going to have to, like, we're going to be tested. You know what I mean? I think we'll be tested with the product. Minnesota is the most pickiest cannabis connoisseur market to me.
It's true.
Like from the back streets, and you know what I mean. Like I was in Colorado, like kind of doing my thing, and every time I come up here, man, I'd be like, oh my god, here we go. And they're just like, I don't know about this. You know what I mean? Pickiest cannabis market in the country, in my opinion.
But I think that's gonna like put pressure on all the cultivators and the manufacturers to come with some fucking pressure.
If they're gonna in Minnesota, you're gonna have to in Minnesota, right? So I think
you won't last.
Do you think so? So I think I guess at some point it has to happen, right? But like High Times Cannabis Cup they're gonna have to start doing cannabis cups in Minnesota. Like they hit all these legal states. I mean, High Times Cannabis Cup in Minnesota, I think is gonna be a crazy. Like we've seen, Colorado. Colorado was crazy for sure. You know what I mean? It was fun. I've been to a few different states with cannabis cups, but I feel like the pride. Like every person I talk to that grows or like wants to grow in Minnesota, man, Jay, teach me how to grow. I'm gonna have the best weed in Minnesota. I want the best. I'm like you and everybody else, bro. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm excited to see that though. Like besides those like fears or whatever, I'm excited to kind of see like High Times Cannabis Cup Minnesota, the first one ever. You know what I mean? Like I'm excited to see that type of stuff though. You know what I mean?
Okay, so like both of y'all have known me for a number of years, but you two are just meeting each other through me. Like, and you probably have learned more about each other during this show.
I'm like, oh, Jamil cooking over here, man. Like, okay, bro. I'm getting more excited
pieces
now.
of the man are all out on the table.
Let's go.
So, like, what is your impression of each other now? Like, I mean, I know you both are trusting each other because, I mean, it seems like y'all trust me.
Yeah.
But, like, what's the feeling here about this developing relationship?
I'll say, just like from the first time we got on the phone and talking to Jamil, Jamil's confident. You know what I mean? And I remember that first conversation, like Jamil was flat out like, man, okay, like, I'm going to hold this down. Like, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. This is what I'm doing. And I was kind of like, okay, bro, like, I love that confidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that, like, just like from meeting you the last couple of times and, like, kind of hearing your story right now, I think that this is a perfect blend of what we have. You know what I mean? Like, from Minneapolis, you know what I mean? From the north side, a hustler, man, been through it, you know what I mean? Through all the trials, tribulations. That got to be a good dude, you know what I mean? Helping these kids and stuff like that. So, like, I think it's like that path, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's a path of greatness, you know what I mean? It's a path of success. And I think, like, having good people like that, like, I think this is a good brother, you know what I mean? I think having good people like that on your side, you know what I mean? It just, you're bound to succeed. And we're going to go through struggles here and there, like, because who doesn't, you know what I mean? But if you got somebody like this, I mean, I know what you've been through, like, knowing your story, but, like, now kind of, like, learning about you, I think that, like, I'm more confident that whatever issues we come across, you know, we can sit in a meeting as, like, board members and we're good.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think we can put our heads together and come up with some type of solution or some type of strategy, you know what I mean, and get past whatever hurdles we're going to come across. Because there's going to be some. So, I mean, I'm learning a lot. I'm excited. I'm glad I'm like, okay, bro, I'm over here like, okay, we're good. We're good. Like, because I know Marcus, you know what I mean, and Marcus kind of, like, knows me. And obviously, like, the trust that we both had in him brought us to the table not even knowing each other. You know what I mean? But now I see why. Like, it all makes sense now. Like, of course. Not like I was doubting it, but, like, you know what I mean? Now that I'm seeing it, it's like, of course this makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, this is like the dream team of cannabis, like, for RP for black folks.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. Like Minneapolis brothers, you know what I'm saying? North side, south side representation.
Right. That's beautiful.
Lived in you know, the hoods, you know what I mean? Still dealing with kids, like, from the hood, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's a very important thing for me, for sure. Like, we used to talk all the time, and I'd be like, you know, man, if we get a chance to open up this company, I want it to be all minority. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that was important for me, man. Like, I'm not, you know, it could have been Hispanic or whatever, but just the way this came together right now was, like, the perfect. and like my dream for this, like black owned cannabis, you know what I mean, and we can thrive. And you don't really see that, like you don't see that around, you know what I'm saying? So,
well, I'll be honest. I wasn't thinking about a license or anything like that until Marcus brought it to my attention, and then once the social equity piece, came into play, and he sent that to me. I read through it, and I'm like, this, I fit the description, obviously, and he's like, I don't, you know what I mean? So I can't go through it. But again, just like watching him move in this work, watching his desire and the sacrifices that he's made. And I mean, being frank, the chances that he took, you know what I mean, to keep himself engaged in that work. And again, I look at my story and where I'm at in life as a vessel, right? Like I truly believe that me not doing that prison time and then being able to transition over to being financially stable, right? To be able to invest in others and invest in things and help people out. Like, so for me, this ain't my business. This is Marcus's, right? God used me as the vessel to present him with the opportunity that he luckily didn't have to find himself in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and then he said, you were coming. Shit. It wasn't a question. So now meeting you and learning your story and your walk through this, it totally makes sense of why he said he's going to be a part of the team, just as a part of the team, right?
Yeah.
So, I didn't question it from day one. I said, okay. And that's how we're rocking, because I've never had to question his integrity. I've never had to question our relationship. The honesty from which we're able to speak from and with, the trust that we've had with each other in our spaces. You know what I mean? Me coming to him coming to me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that type of stuff, like, that's important to me, and I don't share myself with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so being able to do that and then him saying that he feels that way about you was just, it wasn't a question about it.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Hey, I mean, I'm grateful for y'all trusting me and trusting yourselves and trusting each other. And I think we're gonna kill it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be a beautiful journey, for sure. This is going to be a beautiful journey. Yeah.
I mean, is there any parting words you'd like to say? Because this is a show that stakeholders in the cannabis space listen to. I mean, the media pays attention, all the entrepreneurs that really care about the culture and the industry, regulators even listen to this. So, I mean, what type of message do you have, if any, to the Minnesota cannabis market, to the stakeholders out there?
Hello. Thank you for allowing us a seat at the table. We look forward to great partnerships and collaborations, not just within our business that we plan to create, but in the market as a whole. Looking forward to making Minnesota the best as it relates to the cannabis industry, and especially for our people of color that are looking to get in it. In a lot of other areas, we are the light, and I want us to continue to do that. So I hope to meet everybody out there. I hope that we're able to have some fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What Deion Sanders say when he went to Colorado? We coming, I'm excited. We're coming. To the market, to everybody, in the Minnesota cannabis market and culture. I think our goal is going to be, to uplift the cannabis culture in Minnesota. Show people that we can do good business, be successful, and still, mean something to the culture. You know what I mean? I think that it's going to be important for us to not be one of those major companies that come into Minnesota and just, operate for the money and we don't care about the people. I think that's going to be one of the things that we have that other companies won't have is, we're going to care about the people. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm excited. We're coming.
Yes, indeed. And hopefully we'll be able to open up a store sometime later this summer.
Oh yeah,
It all
we will.
depends on when the OCM raises that green light. But yeah, I'm very confident. I'm ecstatic. I do feel like we have a dream team, and I'm grateful for everybody who helped make this possible. Yeah, because I was just one of many. And yeah, so thank you to the viewers. Thank you to our sponsors. Thanks to everybody. Thank you to Jordan, everybody who makes the Northern Lights podcast possible and popping. And I wouldn't just say for all the people out there, we can make Minnesota's cannabis market the best in the country. But for those of us who are from Minnesota, like, we need to support the small Minnesota companies. There's going to be these multi-state operators coming in here and trying to dominate our market, and they'll get a share. But we need to consciously support the best small Minnesota cannabis businesses in this market. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Peace and blessings. Thank y'all, brothers.
Absolutely.
Ever felt like running a cannabis business means running in circles just to get basic banking? Union Bank and Trust gets it. They've been helping cannabis businesses for over 10 years, solving problems like securing accounts, managing cash flow, and navigating regulations. No more jumping through hoops, no more runarounds. Just straightforward banking solutions built on trust, integrity, and performance. Check out unionbankandtrust.com today. That's unionbankandtrust.com. Ready to kick off your home grow? We've got the perfect hookup for you. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. They've got everything from fast flowering strains to unique hybrids, all ready for growing in Minnesota. And guess what? Our listeners get an exclusive deal. Use the code NL10 for a 10% discount on your entire order. Don't miss out and get started with the best seeds. Start your growth strong with MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Remember, NL10 for 10% off at MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Grab your seeds today. And we're back. We're back in the studio with Casey of Natural Harvest. How's it going, man?
Hey, Tanner.
Happy to have you here. It is another month, March now. We got another seed box that we're going to be talking about. Tell us, what do we have coming in the box this month?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. This month, we're doing Sour Gorilla.
Okay.
Another one of those kind of diesel sour flavors that, for me, it's kind of a personal favorite.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've really been enjoying anything that has that word sour in the family recently. Tell us a little bit more about what people can expect with that Sour Gorilla.
Sure.
I mean, what does that taste like? What can they expect to get?
Yeah, so like I said, that sour kind of diesel-y flavor. And then it's a sativa leaning. So, a lot of people kind of want that more uplifting, not so
For
heavy
sure.
feel, go about your day rather than just, lock you into the couch.
Very cool. So also we could probably expect this to maybe be a little bit of a larger plant in how it grows, less of that short and squatty and more of sort of the reaching towards the light.
Yeah.
A great one for March.
Absolutely, yeah. A good mix of both where, you can still do something in your tent. It's not necessarily like a monster 25-foot plant outdoors, but,
Totally. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's a really cool one. That gorilla lineage, I think, is a fun one to touch on and one that we've talked about on the show a little bit in the past. Gorilla Glue, like that's a classic cultivar. I imagine you've had experience with that before?
I have. I haven't grown it, but definitely, sampled it over the years and definitely
sure.
one of my favorites.
Do you get similar sort of the notes of that, but now just like twisted and sour and a little bit more fermented? Or you tell, like, what can people expect from that?
I'd say that's a pretty accurate description.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Absolutely.
I love that. Very cool. So for people who maybe this is their first episode listening in, they heard the description of that seed, they went, oh my God, that is one that I need to try. Where would you send people to go and get the seed?
Sure. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com.
Okay. And maybe, it's March. We're starting to get a little bit closer to when that outdoor season really begins. You could be taking these seeds, starting them indoor today, and by the time outdoors is ready for us, your plants will be ready to thrive.
Well on your way for June, right? For a planting season. So Yeah, now's the time.
Very cool. Sour Gorilla. I'm excited to give that one a try. That'll be a fun one.
Awesome.
And then for those people that go to your website, they're looking to buy a couple other seeds along with that. I heard there's a rumor there's a discount code for people that are listeners to this podcast. Is that true?
Yeah, anybody who watches this podcast, NL10, and we get 10% off your order.
Sweet. So NL10. Go to the website, minnesotacannabisseeds.com. Fill up your cart. Choose what you want to grow, indoors or maybe soon outdoors. NL10. Get a discount on all of that. minnesotacannabisseeds.com. Awesome. Thanks for coming, Casey.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
He works for the Minnesota Frost. He's the equipment manager for the Minnesota Frost.
Tanner's dream job.
I would love to do that.
This whole time he's actually
I want to be the
just-
person that just hands the stick when they break them.
yeah, carbon.
I stand there looking really serious, and then I stand really serious for like 15 more minutes.
Yeah,
And sometimes I might not even have to do that. And then I get to the end and I go, "We did great, guys.
nice work.
Crushed it."
I
Nice
feel
work.
like that's probably one of those thankless jobs, but boy, when it goes right, it goes very right.
Yeah.
But when it goes wrong,
It's-
the old hand, there's a lot that go into that. You got, oh my god, I can't imagine.
Especially because recently they've been throwing them in the air to them. It's been really cool to
Oh, nice.
It's like a Three Musketeers type.
yeah.
Swing.
The 90s had some great movies.
The 90s had some great movies. What comes to mind right away though?
Like Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, like swing, you know, like those kind of movies. yeah, just dumb comedy in a sense, like
Yeah.
kind of. I mean, a little bit gross, but like funny.
You said 90s movies, and immediately I'm thinking like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and like
Yeah, Rick.
Rick Moranis, or was that before?
Do you remember In Sync?
How could I forget In Sync? I've been in Syncer since '98,
Yeah, 98 was a hell of a year.
Mm-hmm.
and then I went Backstreet Back. All right,
Do you think we could get Aaron Carter on the show?
Rest in peace.
rest in peace.
So that's a no.
It's gonna be a hard no on that one, Tanner.
2022. This isn't even a recent thing.
No, this has been a minute.
Wow.
I'm sorry to have to break
No,
it
it's
to you.
okay. I had this fun little device when I was a kid that had these plastic little.
It's like the music
Yeah.
Tamagotchi.
Oh yeah, music. Such a good. And I had a couple Aaron Carter ones.
Yeah.
So I still get a line of that song stuck in my head every so often, and I don't really like the song enough to go and listen to it, but it just lives there,
Rent free.
rent free.
Could have beat Shaq.
Could it be check? Guys, today I think for a high note, we should all share a Kobe-related story.
Yeah,
Do you all have a Kobe-related
I
story?
do.
Just
I have a Kobe story, yeah.
all right.
I actually feel like I might have shared this story on air before. It was the
it's okay.
it
Nobody
was-
listens to the show.
So this was
And we all do dabs, so we don't remember.
yeah. So this was February of 2020.
All right.
My wife and I were in the house hunting process, and we were visiting homes. And the home that we were looking at, that we now currently live in, it was moments after we had walked out of the back door, after we had just seen it, fallen in love, and like, that's the one, everything's working for us.
Wow.
Like, we're feeling on top of the world, like we're like basically about to put the offer in.
What year was this?
This is 2020. This is February of 2020.
I feel where this is going. Yeah.
We could not be more excited. And then my realtor, Dennis, opens his phone and has a text from his daughter, who big Kobe fan, and he just is like, Kobe died right there in the backyard.
Yes.
And I grew up in the Kobe era. It was Kobe, KG,
Mm-hmm.
MJ. Those were Allen Iverson, Tracy McGrady. Those were like dudes to watch. And
Yep.
like, I don't think we looked at any more houses that day.
No.
We basically just were like, can you drop us off?
Wow. Yeah. Sad.
Mm-hmm.
Sad. And that's how you ended up where you live.
Yeah, it's just kind of trauma bonded with the backyard there.
You never wanted to see it. You know, you cemented your history.
You said I can't see another house. They might kill another famous celebrity.
It couldn't be me. No.
Yeah. When Jordan was in his backyard hearing the news, I was sitting in my apartment, like common area, podcasting.
Wow.
the Canna.mn podcast.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. That would have been the exact same time period.
2019 into 2020. I'm sitting across from Zach Robbins.
Okay.
And I forget if it was me or if it was him, but together we learned. And Zach, you know, maybe 5 years older, maybe less, like born in the 80s, like myself, and certainly grew up in some of his adolescent and adult life watching Kobe Bryant, and you know, general fan of sports, so you know, had a connection to Kobe, and we both kind of absorbed the news at the same time, and I believe we did a podcast episode that day, and it'd be fun to go back and listen to it to understand, like, if we touched on it. I believe we did. Podcast was short-lived. You know, Northern Lights is coming up on their 100th episode. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Just came out this week. And, you know, the Canada.mn podcast after Kobe died, it just wasn't the same. Yeah. It just didn't live on.
Didn't live on. Shocking to you guys, didn't really take in the news. I remember a coworker telling me Kobe died and being really upset about it, and being like, "Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that."
Like Monday, you're at school on Monday.
Yeah, just like another teacher who's with me. It's like, oh, Tanner, Kobe died, and I'm sitting at my desk and I like take off my headphones. I'm like,
He just kind of
what?
gave it the fake, like,
Kobe's dead. I'm like,
Is that a student
so
of yours?
sorry. Yeah. The basketball sport player, right? Yeah. Oh, he still play. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, no, but so my story that I have, because I don't remember where I was. When I was in high school, there was a beverage that was really popular called Sobe water.
Yes.
You guys remember that?
Yes. So be
And I used to love those waters. I don't really drink them much anymore.
a lot of flavors. A lot of different kinds of flavors.
Yeah, for sure. I wish I could remember them. They stand out as colors to me. I remember the green one.
I remember
yeah,
pink.
yeah. There we go. Exactly right. It's the Sobe.
Obey Your Thirst? No,
I-
that's a different one. That's a different one.
See, and this is, this is a weed show, Steve. The memory isn't the trick that we do here. But what I do recall was taking one of those bottles of water, throwing it into the garbage can, and going, Sobe, and it making it into the can. And I don't think I've ever been cooler in my entire life. I think I can point to the peak, and it's all been just a gradual slope down.
that's been
Ever
that's
since.
been the rush you've been chasing ever since.
Yeah, that was probably like
Were
maybe
you
10th grade.
okay?
You peaked at
peaked.
16.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, I accept it. And what's nice is now I just get to ride the roller coaster down. Because my favorite part of the roller coaster is not the way up. It is the way down. And so we're riding it, baby. And
This episode's brought to you by Valley Fair.
not a sponsor of the show, but it is brought to you by Valley Fair. Should we all go around and share our favorite Valley Fair story? No.
No, those are off limits.
Yeah, too many tears. But no, good Kobe story, guys. That's a good way to celebrate 24.
I mean, I think Kobe would be proud that I'm still podcasting.
Yeah, you know what?
To this day.
I think he would be. I think if Kobe was here with us right now, he would be proud of us.
101 episodes in,
Wow,
Kobe would be
it's a lot of
proud.
episodes. Do you think he's listened to all of them?
Yes.
Good.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
He plays basketball.
You were waiting for one of us to pull you out of that one, weren't you? Not I.
Well, guys, I think that's an episode. Right?
It's a
we
collection.
Did it.
Yeah.
We did the game. We did the news.
We did part of the game.
We did enough of the game.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, that's
We
true.
checked the box. Marcus did a great interview that was definitely more serious than the rest of this episode, and I think we did a good high note dedicated to the one and only Kobe
Sobe.
Bryant.
Sobe Curry.
I mean, you know, with everything going on, trust in the Northern Lights.
Trust in the Northern Lights. Well, guys, we love to throw something at the end of our episodes sometimes for just those people that are listening all the way through. Should we throw something here at the end?
truck away. But
All right, let's do it. So we worked with a local artist by the name of Ted. He goes by Ted's Trees on Instagram, and he helped with a little bit of a project. Now, Steve, I met you for the first time back 2020, 2021.
You know, hemp clothing.
That time period
Yeah.
when I was working for Bridget at Ground and Gardens, working, volunteering, helping them out. I spent a lot of time in their field helping with some of the plants. And at the end of the season, Bridget said, Tanner, if you want to take a chunk of the stem,
Yeah.
sure. Like if you want that, kid, sure.
Stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're sort of cool. And I was thinking maybe I would like soak it in water, try to like braid it. Maybe I would do something with it. But instead, it turned into an educational tool. I brought it to a bunch of events, including the Walker Hemp Festival.
Yes.
Showed it off to people and said, this is how big hemp can get when it grows outdoors in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. And then people sort of got it. Yeah, this is a big plant.
It's very strong and very light.
Yeah. Especially for people who are growing today. Like, I don't really need to show you what the plant looks like. People see it pretty regularly.
Nowadays, we show each other like Storz and Bickel and Puffco devices.
Yeah, exactly. So this stem has been sitting on the shelf for
4 or 5 years.
yeah, way too long. And Ted has been turning chunks of wood into really functional dabbing tools for a while. And I was seeing him post on Instagram and got the idea of, shit, I don't want this chunk of hemp anymore. And I would instead much prefer to have like a dab tool, something that sort of turns this cannabis into a way to consume cannabis, the full cycle, if you will.
Wow.
So, we gave it to him. He did his incredible work, and we've now got some tools that we're going to be showing off. We want to show them off here because we are going to be doing a giveaway of these tools. And so be on the lookout on our social media for that. But Steve, check these out.
Yeah, please. Wow, this looks so if you're not watching at home, what it looks like here is like you open the drawer for your silverware and you've got your forks, you got your knives, you got your spoons, but instead you're doing dabs.
Yeah.
And you're going to open up that drawer that has the tools you need in order to take a dab.
Totally. People who've done dabs before, there's often like a metal tool that you have. Ted has become pretty well known for having wood handle dab tools, sometimes working with glass artists to include elements of their art in the tool. We reached out, we said, hey, we need some dab tools, and we got some hemp for you, and we came up with this collaborative project of some Tanner's Terp Tasting and also some Northern Lights dab tools made out of 100% cannabis grown in Minnesota.
These are
Northern Lights.
custom branded tools that represent the show.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a cannabis product, if you will, not one that is regulated by OCM,
No.
but instead a different type of cannabis product, a product in the way that like a shirt or a bag would be a cannabis product.
Talk about plant touching.
Yeah, for reals. This is as plant touching as you can get. And what I love is he tried his best to chop them in a way that really included a lot of the like knots of the hemp itself. So we'll show you on this dab tool. You can see like there's the knot that grew. That was a stem growing out of there at one point that was chopped off in the field. And you can see that growth on the tool that you're going to be
These are really
ripping some
pretty.
dabs on.
These are really pretty.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing a giveaway probably around 420.
Okay.
But people have to enter that before that. So be on the lookout that first week of April for when we're going to be posting some information on how you can be getting these tools.
Wow.
Because we want to get them out to people. We think they're cool works of art, and I can only use so many at my home, so we gotta get them out.
This is fantastic.
Yeah.
And every Friday, stick around for Tanner's Terp Tasting.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna have Ted join us for an interview at some point coming up here, either for Tanner's Terp Tasting or maybe even on Northern Lights. But yeah, I wanted to show these off to people. I've been sitting on them for like 3 or 4 days, and I couldn't not bring them in the
I saw the bag. I didn't know what was inside.
Oh yeah, I know. This was one of those surprises to even the co-host of the show. So
Show and Ted.
Show and Ted. Yeah, absolutely. So if you want a chance to win one of these, make sure you are subscribed to us on Instagram. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. We want to get these out to you guys, and we will be releasing information on how to do that very, very soon. So that's just a little promo for just the people that listen to the end. We're not going to put that at the beginning of the show.
No way,
Put
Jose.
it in here because you guys are our loyal listeners. We want to do this giveaway. These tools, I think, are pretty sweet if I say so myself.
If I do say so myself.
If I do say so myself.
I like it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
really
great. Yeah.
So we'll have our socials in the show notes. Make sure you go and give those a follow.
This
But
is
otherwise-
exclusively for our LinkedIn followers.
exclusively for our LinkedIn followers. Actually, we should do a drop on LinkedIn. That'd be so good. All right. Make sure to follow us on LinkedIn as well. That is, I would say, one of the most active cannabis social media networks that doesn't delete like half of the accounts.
Yeah.
So-
Actually, if you think about it, it's funny.
We all sigh.
Yeah. But hey, at Northern Lights Pod, still up.
Still there.
At MN Cannabis College, still good to go. Have we gotten flags? For sure. Are we still there? You know it. All right, guys. Let's put a stop on this.
We'll see you back on April Fool's Day. Stick around because we got some tricks up our sleeve.
Yes, we do. Go and follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Wherever you can find your podcast, that's where we are. If you can't find us, let us know because we want to be there. Tell a friend about Northern Lights. Tell a friend about Tanner's Trip Tasting. Sit your friend down and say, hey, have you ever done a dab before? Check this out. We should do these.
Yeah.
Because you should, and you could do it with the Northern Lights tool. Leave a comment. Follow us on YouTube. I did the things.
Yeah.
Any others?
Box ticked, I'd say.
Tell your friends, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good week, everyone. Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by Steve Eigenman and Jordan Whiff. Production assistance from Marcus Harkis, Shayna Payton, and John Barty. Video and audio recording at the Dabbler Depot studio by Jordan Whiff. The information provided in this podcast does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking advice from their own legal counsel. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly.